New York City is one of the pizza capitals of the world. That thin dollar slice is an iconic symbol of the city. But I grew up in Chicago, so I'm used to tavern-style thin crust and gooey deep dish. I've been missing home lately, so I thought I would try to put the age-old New York versus Chicago debate to rest and try to find authentic Chicago deep dish here to see if New York City can really do it all. I needed to do a deep dive on some deep dish, so I got advice from Steve Dolinsky, a Chicago food journalist and author of Pizza City.
With a deep dish, I think ratio is important. The term I have in my book is OBR, which is optimal bite ratio. I think you don't want to have an overwhelming slice. You don't want to have all cheese. You don't want to have all dough when you take a bite of it. Every bite should be sort of equal amounts crust, cheese, sauce, topping.
Do you think that deep dish can exist outside of Chicago? Even if it's not authentic, should Chicago have a deep dish monopoly?
Absolutely. Deep dish can be anywhere. I mean, the problem I have is when people confuse deep with stuffed. That's why I don't like people out of town sort of messing with the nomenclature. But I think it could exist elsewhere. I just don't think it exists elsewhere up to the sort of high standards we have here.
I headed uptown to my first stop on this pizza journey.
We're here on the Upper West Side at Pizzeria Uno. This chain originated in 1943 in Chicago on the corner of Ohio and Wabash.
Now, this was a deep dish, but it tasted like a chain. It was delicious, but not quite right. My friend Bria, though, loved every bite. After that, we headed down to the financial district, to Big Al's Chicago-style pizza. Big Al's Chicago-style didn't really live up to the name because they didn't cook it in a deep dish pan. It was just a regular pizza pan with a little bit of a raised edge. It just tasted like a thicker New York slice. But their Al Capone decor was great. I'm sorry, Big Al's, but you're not passing off as deep dish. I'm sorry. I wanted to know more about why Chicagoans and New Yorkers have such strong allegiances to their pizza. So I chatted with Dr. Shane Figueroa, an NYU food studies professor, about what ties a city to its food.
Look at the history of America. You're looking at really some really deep ethnic enclaves, in New York in particular, again, as being a predominant port immigration city. If you came to America from Europe, chances are you're going through New York, right? And those foods that you mentioned, the pizza, Italian immigrants, hot dog, German immigrants, right? You're really looking at a deep, the deep impact of immigrant culture, and acknowledge that those people had a long experience making this food and making it well.
Immigrants are what make New York and Chicago so culturally interesting. My final stop was in Soho, at a place where a man is setting down roots of his own. Emmett's Pizzeria is owned by Emmett Burke, a native Chicagoan. He told me why he thinks Chicago has mastered the pizza experience.
New York is you grab and go and all these things. In Chicago, there is, there's something special about it. I think the experience of the actual pie, right? With deep dish, you order it, at a busy restaurant or whatever, it can take almost an hour. With New York, like I said, there's of course pizzeries you can sit down at, but I think with Chicago, we really have such an emphasis on creating an atmosphere and an experience because of the wait time. And, you want to make it cozy, you want to make it warm, you want people to feel welcome. And I think that kind of ties into a Midwest hospitality in itself.
Emmett's reminded me of home. They even carried Chicago-style hot dogs. My friends and I enjoyed it so much we finished the pie in 20 minutes. After all this pizza, my head and my stomach were pretty full. And although I still think Chicago is the only place that serves genuine deep dish, I learned a lot about what food means to a city. And now I know that there are a couple of spots around NYC where I can find a slice of home. For NYU Tonight, I'm Cate Hynes.